Before we jump into the video, I want to add a little context to how we got to this point. I purchased this car for my daughter's 18th birthday to go back and forth to school, and it was driving fine. It ran well, and of course I checked it out, made sure everything was okay, no codes or anything. So her school is about 2 hours away from here. She said she started having issues around March. She didn't tell me this, but she was having issues. It was shuddering, and she just thought it was normal. It wasn't throwing any codes or anything. And on her way back home for spring break, here you see she stopped on the expressway, and we had to get it towed home. But when I got there, I tried to drive the car home or get it off the expressway. It's very dangerous being stranded on the expressway. Luckily, she was only about 15 minutes away from the house, so that was the good thing. But when I got to the car, it was in fail-safe mode. As I started to drive off, it moved extremely slowly, less than 5 miles an hour, and suddenly I heard a clank followed by some clattering, and then it stopped moving. It was a loud clank at that, and it stopped going, and I knew exactly what happened. It wouldn't go in reverse or forward, so we got it towed home, and here we are, replacing the CVT. So after thoroughly searching for a CVT, I found one on eBay. That's kind of my go-to. I've been going there for years trying to find a used part because they really cracking down on people selling where I thought they was. Parts that's not legitimate. Here is a transmission CVT from out of a vehicle with 21,000 miles. At least that's what the seller claimed. And as you all see, the torque converter has fell out of the shaft or out of the transmission when it should have been bolted with an arm or something. Just a metal arm to hold it in place with a bolt attached to the transmission. That's how they come. I've bought so many throughout the years of working on vehicles, and here just inspecting everything, and the seal looked fine and the transmission looked good. The transmission didn't look nothing like what was in the picture for it to claim it to be a 21,000 miles, but we'll get into all that when we get to this transmission to kind of open it up to see what's going on here. I want to note or put emphasis on purchasing a used transmission, a CVT or automatic transmission or manual transmission. Make sure the source is reliable. Don't try to go off anyone's word, especially with these CVTs. You definitely want to find a credible source to purchase one from. You don't want to go to marketplace when someone's telling you it's working and it's not, because the job is too laborious. It's a massive job and a very expensive one to go and install a transmission going off somebody's word, and it's not what they say it is, and it don't work. So yeah, this is why I'll show you what I spent for this transmission. I'll show you what happened with this transmission. And this video is going to be lengthy, guys, and I'll tell you why, because I'm extremely passionate. I'm passionate about doing this stuff. And when you get through watching this video, whether you worked on a car or just somewhat mechanically inclined, you will feel like you can do this job. I'm going to show every single detail in great detail because I'm extremely passionate, guys. I am. So forgive me for the length, but you're going to see every single thing this job entails, every single aspect of it from beginning to the end. I guess before we get started, I can show you guys what it's doing. I'll put the codes in here. I don't want to grab the scanner again. I'll show you the codes that it's reading for the transmission. hear it trying to go in reverse. It seemed like it went in reverse. R there. Yeah. Nothing. It's going to drive. Zilch. Low. Nothing. I was going to roll the vehicle on these ramps, but they are way too small. The ramps is not going to work, guys, at all. Got to jack this thing way up to get this transmission out of here. So we're not using no ramps. We're just going to use some jack stands and get it way up for us. And what else I need to do? I guess I can give me some initial tools here. Guess we'll start with the battery first. I'm just going to go accordingly. I'll show you guys every single step that I'm going to do. Let's get this battery out of here. That's what we can do first. And then it will go from there. Another thing I want to point out, safety glasses. These are safety glasses. So got a couple set of safety glasses out here. One for the sun and one for when I'm on the vehicle. I got on some shades right now, so I'll be good. But this is important to me. Some gloves. I got these gloves. And I got some rubber gloves. Although we won't be removing this nut from this mount until later, you just want to spray it with some penetrant now and allow it to work. When you're cutting these zip ties, be careful not to cut into the harness, and don't worry, we're putting this back exactly like the factory had it. I promise. Alright, put the reservoir screw back in place so we know that's there. Also, just put those bolts back in place as well. Just set that down in there. Move that. As I shift this back, you guys can see that coolant reservoir. We kind of cleared that space. That helped out. And I just shifted this back, this whole bracket back. Place the screw at that to use it as a stop. Just put this inside there. This is not held on by anything. Just got it there. Now we got even more space to work with. know if these are the same length bolts. You gotta worry about to get them mixed up. They're all the same length and size. All right, we're gonna stuff these ports, plastic bags. Then remove this ground, that ground. This is the knock sensor. And this tab here, there's one right there. undo the clip. Alright, got a 16 millimeter here. Fits good. 15 millimeter won't go on. But what fits it perfect? 5/8. Zero play. Although there's only a 2-inch clearance between the jack height, transmission height, and the vehicle off the ground, we'll have ample enough room to remove this transmission when I show you guys how I'm going to remove it. So I don't have to raise it anymore. We're perfect here. Alright, in the event we have to come up some more, that'll be fine. 100% secure. Got the 12-ton jack stands on here. The reason I use the 12-ton jack stands is because I didn't like how far the arms were on the 3-ton jack stands, even though they were safe and they're designed to let out that far. I just didn't like how far the arms were out. And in the event I did have to come up a little bit more, I didn't want to fully extend those arms on those jack stands. So these allow me to go up as far as I want to go if need be. Just to be safe, we're not going anywhere. Remember, we don't want to be on this arm. This arm, we may have to shift this arm to get the axle out. Definitely on this side. The lower ball joint out. Make sure the rear jack stands is level. They'll tend to shift because we are raising the front up and there's some movement there. As you jack it up, make sure all the rear is sitting level, not tilting. No, we're all good. Same position. All right, we're up high enough. Let me take the wheels off now. Guys, whenever you're doing a big job like this or a job that requires a lot of labor, you want to be as comfortable as possible. With me, even when I'm doing small jobs, I want to be comfortable when I'm working. I want to be able to maneuver how I like to maneuver with minimal restrictions, which allows me to focus completely on the job at hand, opposed to me worrying about, my feet aching or these clothes are uncomfortable, and trying to have my mind as clear as possible, especially when you're doing something on the lines of this job. So here I'm just going to show you guys some attire I'm wearing. I'm wearing some boots that's steel-toed, but they're very comfortable. And although I'm messing with heavy things here and I'm not on a construction site, these boots are designed for this, what I'm doing. And the outfit I'm wearing, or the overall I'm wearing, I love these things. I got some for the winter and these are for the summer. And these also have integrated knee pads, which allows me to fall to my knees whenever I want to without feeling anything. That cushion is there. I have to look for a pad or something to cushion my knees when I'm on the pavement. All right, let's remove the wheel well cover or the fender shield, fender guard. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You got a fill up here. And I don't think anything under here. I'm gonna put the camera back. I'll just do a time lapse on this, but you guys will know exactly what it is. Use a camera removal tool. Guys, I'm not sure what's the actual bolt size here. This size is a 14 millimeter nut with the 14 millimeter size bolt, and the other side has a 17 millimeter nut and bolt set up. So obviously someone did some work here, and the manual doesn't show that. So I just want to note that. This is too big. Perfect. Guys, of course I could remove the large two spindle bolts from the strut and remove the axle that way, but I'm going to show you why this way is much better. I've been doing this since I was 10 years old, guys. You can imagine how many axles I removed, but in this case I'm going to show you guys why when I reinstall the axles on the new transmissions, that this is the best method for this job, and I'll explain why. $17 millimeter. So let me zip this off, do the exact same thing to this side, and then we'll pop the axle out. Just let it rest until we remove it. Alright, now we can get the torque converter bolts since we have both axles just sitting to the side. Also put the bolts back in so they can speed out when we need them. Alright, I guess now we can get the torque converter bolts. Show you guys what you can use. And I'm going to show you what I'm using. You can use a 19mm with the breaker bar to rotate the crankshaft. Already pointed right in our face. So this is my first try to remove the torque converter bolts. I'm using my cordless ratchet, impact swivel, impact magnetic socket. And as you can see, I'm on there, but this thing didn't budge it. Although it's capable of removing 70 foot-pounds, these torque converter bolts are torqued down to 38 foot-pounds. However, they have thread lock on them. So I'm going to show you guys a method how to get them using just this, opposed to me using my powerful impact and almost stripping one of the nuts out. So here I'm using the DCF 921. That thing's a beast. I was almost positive it was going to remove those nuts, and it didn't budge them, as you all seen. So I just want to show you guys that I did try to use a more powerful impact and it wasn't budging those nuts. I'm going to show you a way to get them very easy, and when you can use the cordless ratchet and get them right off in no time. I do want to mention, I almost stripped one of these nuts out trying to add more torque to these nuts, and that's what made me opted to go the route that I went. So here I'm using some MAP gas on an angled torch head. This angle allows me to focus directly on the nut for approximately 2 minutes or a tad bit over 2 minutes, nothing more. This is enough time to burn that thread locker off, which will allow you to remove that nut very easy, even just using the ratchet or the cordless ratchet to remove it quickly. So as I'm working on removing the torque converter nuts, a storm comes out of nowhere. I mean, just suddenly appears, and I have to quickly cover things up. And this is one of the cons for working outside. Although I benefit from the natural lighting and I'm shooting in 4K, this is one of the cons for being outside. The weather can take a turn for the worse. And although I got the pole barn back there and ample enough room in there to pull this car in there and do the work, it gets 1,000 degrees in there in the summertime. So it's just better for me to be out here. So yeah, I have to stop due to the weather kind of changing. The weather's been up and down all over the place here as of late. So we'll get back to it in a second. Let me show you guys how we're going to rotate it first. We're going to rotate it clockwise. I highly recommend rotating it clockwise, even if you have to go back a little bit. Counterclockwise to get the bolt aligned with the hole here, that's fine, but rotate the engine clockwise, and I'll show you guys that now. You can use a ratchet. I'll just use this. This is skinny serpentine belt removal, very long. I got an entire kit of these, bought them some years back, but this is the size 19mm. You can see the different things. So remove a serpentine belt just for this one. Here now we have just another breaker bar, but we're gonna rotate the engine around to the next bolt. And with this, you just kind of go right up in there. Goes right on it. Shouldn't be that far off. Let's go see if we located it. A little bit more. That's right there. You know what? Let's remove this dipstick tube out of our way. Moved over some. It shifted out of our way, so I got space now. I ain't got to worry about it. Scrape my arm up. All right, we'll leave that like that. That's good. got it. We got it. It just fell off. It fell in the pan. Let's see what we get. It zipped right off. Also, I pulled this back just for video purposes. A couple of those black retainers. Just popped them out down here, two 10mm bolts, just so you guys can see the crankshaft and how I kind of wedge it in the event I needed to with this. Could use a big socket, but yeah, we're gonna spin it around. Another thing I want to note, I also went to a smaller setup than this, because look how wide this swivel is. Look how the width of it, and you're working against this base. You can just see here, even though I'm on an angle, it's still catching because it doesn't have much give in this swivel. So I went to, this is a better setup because how much smaller this is in diameter. Better setup for me, 14mm on the small impact socket, impact swivel. Oh, one last thing before I move on. Most importantly, I had this on standby. It was sitting directly in the vicinity of how I'm working. I use a little bit. Any event, something catch fire, these wire harnesses, anything, even though you got ample enough space to avoid these wire harnesses. Any event, anything flame on, or you catch a fire, I seen a little smoke. It probably was that residue from that thread locker that they used on that smoking up. So just use a little bit of this, but have this on standby if you got to extinguish any kind of flames or fire that erupts, because there is gas lines in the vicinity. So please make sure you have that. That's the most important when using any of them torches, and preferably map gas, focus head, extinguisher also on close by. I can't put emphasis on that enough. Safety is always first with me, and I'm putting emphasis on it for you guys. All right, so we just rotated the other one around right in our face. Guys, remember, 2 minutes is all you need. Don't wrestle with this nut and risk stripping it out if it's on there extremely tight. Just heat it up for a couple minutes. It's going to come off effortlessly. Trust me. Final one. There we go, guys. Let's heat them up. Get them out of there. Don't wrestle with these things. No time. That thing is hot. Get it right out. Effortless. Before we remove the axles, we need to drain some of this CVT fluid out the trans. Do not touch the pan. I'm going to show you guys the best method to drain at least 50 to 60% of this transmission fluid out. Make sure you have a catch pan directly under this drain plug or sight plug once you remove it, because it's going to spill out really quickly. So let me show you guys how to drain it very quickly without touching the pan bolts or removing the pan. Oh my goodness. So I might as well just get all the rest out this pan. All right, we're gonna pop this axle out using this joint fork or pickle fork. All right, let's do the other side now. I'm gonna press in and pull like before. Like so, pressing in and pulling. Same thing. Pressing in here, pull back. Let me get this undone really quick. You guys can see we're on the back side of it, so even more easier to get done. We press those prongs in, that's butterflying out like the tip of an arrow, butterflying out. Just press those in, depress those, and push it back in. Pinched off there, so we can actually. There we go. Place these bolts back in the transmission housing you can before we transfer them over to the new trans, just so they can be right in arm's reach. See if we can get up here with it. I think they're the same length, but we're gonna make sure. So far, so good. Same length. Same length. Same length. Same length. All right, we got one more top bolt up top, I believe. Oh no, we got another one on the opposite side. This might be a little bit too long extension, but I think we're on there. Let's secure the transmission and get this rear mount off. We got the trans secured. Some bolts under it. Now we can remove the rear mount, but let's get this last transmission bolt. This is how I'm coming, long extension. Gonna get it about right here. Got the magnetic bit on it. So we're gonna get it right here. Let me mount the camera. All right, I have to put the breaker bar. We secure there, separated some. Let's go pop that mount out. This goes here, and goes there, and it goes there. They all should have the same amount of length sticking out. All right, we put this to the side. All right, pretty much separated from up here. Just pull it back a little bit. That's pretty much off the engine. All right, nothing's holding us up. Move all the harnesses out of our way. All right, let's let this thing down. Huh? All right, we're out. So now I know my method of going back in. I can use the same boards I got, stack them up straight, come in sideways, just rotate it up. I can come in, I can go back in directly the way I came out without having to lift it on top of these boards again. So there we are there. So you can see where I heated up at the 3 spots I heated up. I got lucky here. Our dowels are in place, so when we go back up, we'll be all good. And everything's all good. We'll put a wire tie on this harness to get up out of our way, but so we can just let it sit to the side like so. So I got the wire tie. We'll wire tie this harness up here somewhere when we get back in. But yeah, let me show you guys the TCM. So here's the initial CVT I bought. It's supposed to have 21,000 miles on it. OEM transmission. I'm going to show you guys the listing and what I paid for it. And look at the picture on both. It doesn't look anything like the picture posted on the item itself for the 21K mile thing. And you guys are going to see it when I open up or change the fluid. I was going to change the filter, both filters on here, and replace the new gasket and get it prepped to install, but that wasn't the case. I shipped this thing back, and I'm going to show you guys all that, and I'll show you guys the new transmission and what I paid for it as well. But yeah, this wasn't right. Guys, you heard me mention earlier about purchasing a used CVT or transmission. It's very important that you get one that's guaranteed to work and purchase it from a reliable source. You don't want to gamble on Marketplace or anywhere when someone tell you it work. Although it may be some good ones there, just the risk is far too great to gamble on something that's not guaranteed. I know this is a lot of cash to shell out because these things are very expensive, but there's so many different programs out there that would allow you to afford one of these and pay monthly, such as Affirm, Klarna, Afterpay, PayPal installments, just to name a few. And this will guarantee or ensure that you're getting something that's reliable and guaranteed to install in your vehicle. Go both transmissions, torque converter, fluid. It's not as dark as this one. Supposed to have 21,000 miles on this transmission. Just inspecting, everything looks identical. Also, after thoroughly looking over the CVT, you can see, and I'll show you guys, that they painted it. They painted it to give it a barely used look. And I knew right then and there that was a red flag. So we're going to remove the inline filter. And I'm going to also show you guys what filter kit I purchased for this entire transmission that came with the CVT. I'll show you all the torque specs for the inline filter, for everything. I'm going to show the torque specs for every single component on this transmission. But I was going to show in detail how to replace both filters and the pan gasket, and how to torque down the pan bolts. And I'll put that information in here from the digital manual I have. I'll integrate all that stuff so you guys can do it. If you do purchase a used CVT, just be careful. And I'll also show you guys the new CVTs that's popping up out there, the ones that I purchased for just about $100 more than this transmission. That CVT fluid had so many metal flakes in it, and look how dark it is. And it's supposed to be a 21K original mile car. Oh my goodness. So, although at this point I knew I wasn't going to install this transmission, I knew I was shipping it back, but once I removed the inline filter, I knew for a fact this thing was getting wrapped up and shipped back.
So what is it? When it's supposed to start reading?
Using this brake and parts cleaner here exposed the paint. They just painted over the dirt and everything. They didn't try to even wipe off anything. Just painted over everything with the paint, as that brake and part cleaner was exposing the original casing cover or color, and that paint was just running off. Just sad. So here's the original CVT with the high mileage. We're going to remove that inline filter, and that CVT fluid is going to be equally as dirty as the supposedly 21K mile CVT. Just as I told you guys, here's me wrapping up that CVT to ship back to the seller. Although this slowed up the progress, the risk is far too great for me to take a gamble here. So I'm not taking any chances. I need something that's for sure and that's guaranteed. Not trying to do this all over again. I'm not. Just don't work like that. Time is of the essence. Time is valuable to me. I don't have time to waste. And I'm honest. I'm very honest. I don't like when somebody's not honest with me. The new transmission came pretty quickly. It came in two different boxes. One housed the torque converter and the cooler, and the other was the transmission, in which was a crate inside of a box, as you guys will see in a second. I was shocked that the transmission didn't get damaged because there was minimal packing, like no cushion pretty much to protect it. But yeah, it came and it was fine. I checked over it thoroughly before I installed it, because you get a hairline crack in those things, or any kind of crack that you can't see visibly, and install it, fluid's gonna leak out of it.
Brother.
Okay, so old trans, new trans, we gotta swap these things over. The range switch or the neutral safety switch, this brace or bracket, secondary speed sensor, primary speed sensor. It comes with the new cooler. output speed sensor, and the breather tube. Take this off right now. I'm gonna clean this up. We're gonna pay attention to the shaft, the angle of the shaft, for the gear selector when we remove that. This trans should be completely empty with fluid. Pretty sure it is. If you look in here, although we drained a lot of this fluid, look down here, you can see fluid seal. Now if we take this out, we shouldn't see anything but new components. And that's probably what we see. Everything new. Look at this shaft. It's all the way over as far as it can go. Look at the position. Now look at this one. So we're gonna take a crescent wrench or whatever you got to go flat here. Crescent wrench. That's it right there. All right, let's remove this now. You want to be careful here because you can crack that brain switch. Be careful with this. Whenever you remove these range switches from the CVT or neutral safety switches, they recommend that you replace them, I guess, because it's a possibility you can damage the contacts when you remove it off that shaft inside of that range switch. So it's highly recommended that you replace them whenever you use them. And I'll show you guys that here now. There's a special tool that aligns this range switch or places it in the perfect position. I don't have the tool. However, I'm going to show you guys a method or a trick you can use to install it correctly, to align it perfectly to the shifter. And although I filmed it initially, when I went back to check the footage, over 13 hours of footage for this video, it wasn't there. So I redid it over for you guys and I'll integrate it in the film when I install it.
My shit.
The new cooler didn't come with any bolts, so we have to remove the old bolts from the old cooler and use those bolts.
But he's not buying no another frisbee. He's not gonna buy one of them. Broke it.
I'm just checking here to make sure the O-rings didn't fall out that cooler. Install them dry. Don't put any lubricant on them. Just lubricate the face nut of trans before you install them. Otherwise, they may slip out, so they're fine.
Only if you need that. Only if you can do the strength test. Can I sit there, please?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. This battery.
So here's the new torque converter. We're gonna inspect it and we're gonna fill it a little bit. We're gonna add a little bit of CVT fluid here. This torque converter has not been removed. I got a measuring cup. I'll show you guys how much fluid we're gonna add here, but I want to show you guys how far in this should be. This has not been removed. I'll show you guys. We're gonna use a straight edge and a ruler across the surface, and I'll show you guys where exactly should be at and where to measure it. These measurements are spot on. Now we can see the new torque converter. Make sure the O-ring's on there. Inspect that seal. Of course, this seal is new. Make sure there's no debris around the seal. This seal can be replaced fairly easily. This one, the transmission has to come back out. So make sure there's no debris around here. Make sure this O-ring is seated before we install the torque converter. All right, let's push this thing on here. Alright, that's it. It's installed. You to click those 2 clicks, and you can't push back no farther, and you can actually feel some resistance on it. It's not rotating smooth. You can actually feel that it's turning the gears in here. And if we're gonna take a straight edge and go in here, if we look here, the measurements, look how far it is from this raised section in the trans bell housing. If you look here, it's identical. But we're gonna go with a straight edge on here and I'll show you guys. But yeah, it's installed. Perfectly installed. I think it's all good. We'll install that fill tube later. Once the transmission is installed, remember we want to plug up that connector first. But yeah. Oh, I forgot a bolt here. That's for that brace. Another bad storm came and destroyed my tent, and you can see it's flooded over there as well. A very important thing to be noted once installing this transmission, or once you're going up with it, as I'm pointing there, is the holes on the flywheel to mate the torque converter to. You want to find a reference on the engine block with that hole adjacent to it, and find that exact same spot on the transmission or CVT where the torque converter lines at with the engine block. And I'll show you guys that in a second, but that's very important because it's nearly impossible to rotate the torque converter once you have the CVT mated to the engine. All right, we're ready to go up. Inspect the torque converter one last time. All right, let's make sure our torque converter is still in place, and which it is. If you press back on it, you can kind of feel it scraping towards the back because it has to come up some. Let's try to align these studs as close as we can to the converter holes. Here's our top mount bolt for the very top. Here's the dowel hole there. Dowel hole for the dowel there. Both are cleared. And let's look at the position of it. You can see where it is adjacent to the starter hole, a little bit up, and I'll show you guys exactly where that's at. So starter housing here. A little bit up, so we're kind of in the vicinity already. We're just about there, so we'll leave it. Yeah, let's see, is it exactly adjacent or parallel to this? A little bit down, so just a little bit. Let's come down just a little bit. Just a little bit. Try to be in the vicinity. I'm thinking about right there. So we'll be close already. This is not gonna move. Everything looks all good. Let's start going up. Our boards are aligned. We pretty much got a straight shot of it. Let's start jacking this thing up. I'm gonna angle it like we removed it. I'm gonna angle it, put the angle there. But I'm gonna remove this. I'll put this back after the fact just to give us the clearance to come up straight. Just remove that 10mm bolt and pull this off, and we'll put it back on. All right, got the height tuned out a little bit. So now we're gonna angle it and lower it. So we're gonna angle this, put something on here to angle it and lower it. And we're gonna lower it just a little bit. That should be cool. Now let's get on the tilt. right, I can get this one close. This one's right there just about. So what we're gonna do is try to get this one started and let this and lower it. It's gonna swing down, so this is way off. So it should, once we get this one, it should swing in place. It should swing in place. This is our pivot. So let me get this one started. Let me get this one. You can get a few more bolts started here. All we want to do is make sure the transmission is aligned and in place, in which it is here. However, we don't want to draw that CVT in until we get the torque converter bolts aligned. That's very, very important. You draw it in without having those holes aligned and that torque converter studs going through the flywheel, you can potentially damage something on the CVT because it's pressing back against the body of that CVT. Here, I'm making sure those dials are aligned with the CVT so I can focus on aligning the torque converter up. But I'm slightly off and I'm just going to rotate it a tad bit. And once I get it there, we can focus on aligning this torque converter up to the flywheel. As you can see, we're pretty much aligned, just a hair off. Couple things you can do here, since these new torque converters have these holes, or they have an Allen hole there, Allen key. You can insert the Phillips screwdriver and rotate it up, but the easier method would be just to rotate the flywheel clockwise a tad bit, and we're right there. It's going to fall right in place. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Now we can draw that CVT in, torque those bolts down, install the flywheel nuts, torque those down as well, and we'll be done with that part. All right, we got all the bolts snugged up. We're going to torque them down right now. Flywheel bolts are visible. See how much is sticking out. It's going to come forward a little bit. It's designed that way. Let me show you guys around the bell housing. Want to make sure all of them are snug tight as we just did. Should be sandwiched. Everything should screw in all the way to they bottom out. If it's incorrectly. So we're going to keep this seal bent back before we connect it to those bolts. And as you look here, look how far that brace is, or that rear mount from the hole. That's nothing. We're going to be able to pull the transmission forward very easily to install that bolt. That's our least concern. So let's get this thing torqued down. We're going to torque that bolt first or second. Not this bolt. But that. I'm going to torque that bolt first and the other one second. Okay guys, our torque specs is 46 foot-pounds. We're going to torque them down. Let's set the torque wrench. All right, let's set this up. That's 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. We go 5 more up, that'll be 50. We're going to come back to 45, so we'll put it about right there. Tighten the body up. 4 pounds. Alright, we got one last bolt to torque down, that one, and then we're gonna hit these flywheel nuts. Press. Alright, we're gonna pry the engine back some to get that bolt started. If you look here, of course, this is gonna be aligned with the transmission hole. We just gotta, let's see here, it's aligned. We gotta get this aligned now. So we gotta brace that. Maybe you can get a pry bar here and pull it back and so that it lines up. Another thing, I removed the jack stand from off the engine to get some clearance up. One thing about this jack, it has a safety feature on it. Here, this lever. So I keep it down. So it only can drop down about 1 inch before it catches on both sides. Just a safety feature. You ain't got to worry about it crashing down or nothing happening while you have the trans or whatever you got supported. Safety issue here. 3 levels. All right, let me get something to pry back without damaging that transmission. We need no damage. Then we're gonna work on the torque converter bolts. One thing you guys are going to notice as I install everything or reinstall everything, you're going to rarely see me using the power tool. I'm going to do it manually. That's how I started at 10 years old and been doing it ever since that way. The power tools are great to remove things, but I got to be careful when dealing with the power tools here. So this is just my method of doing it. You can do it as you wish, but I recommend just manually installing stuff with the ratchet until you get it in place or snugged up, and then you torque them down. But you'll see this moving on until I get completely done with this job. I will use a power tool to draw the nuts in on the torque converter, and then we'll torque those down as well. That kind of makes sense to use it there, but mostly you'll see me using a ratchet to tighten things down. I guess the next thing I'm gonna do is talking for the bolts. So here's the original torque converter bolts. You can look, I struggled. One of them, I nearly rounded off. Is it still usable? I don't know. Maybe in one direction, but look at that. Yes, almost rounded off, forcing it off. Rest of them are okay, but we're gonna go with some new ones. There we go. I'll show you guys where to order them from. These torque converter nuts were extremely difficult to find for the Nissan Sentra. However, the Nissan Versa, the same years, take the identical nuts for the torque converter for the Versa. So these are for the Nissan Versa. They are identical to the Nissan Sentra. Let me put the ordering information in right now. I highly recommend replacing these nuts. I'm also going to use a little thread locker and get these things started. I also highly recommend using a magnetic socket. Please, 14mm magnetic socket, because if it falls down in that transmission, you won't be able to get it out. It'll be a nightmare. You have to fish for it with a really small mag. You do want to avoid that. Please, magnetic socket. Oh man. Too much came out. I talked the rest off camera. This video is already too long. I know the goal is to show every single aspect of this. I think I've done just that, but you all should know what to do at this point. We're going to do some preventative maintenance on a few things. Here we're going to first start off with the starter. The starter on this vehicle functions well. However, it's the original starter. It's been on here for 13 years. It's removed. We might as well exchange or replace it with a new starter. It's not that difficult to change, but since it's off, might as well replace it. It's inexpensive, and I'll show you guys here what we paid for it. And we're going to do a couple more things. Alright, we'll be back up here to kind of finish things off. Let's get to the bottom. Let's get the axles in. Let's get everything plugged up down here. We can actually remove the jack now. Before we put the axle in, we can try to keep some clearance here. We can plug the output speed sensor in, the secondary speed sensor. We can place that bracket back on for those tie downs or retainers. Then we can connect the plug. I'll show you guys how to do that. Install the fuel tube before we install it, we'll add some fluid here, and then before we add fluid, we're gonna pop those axles in. Inspect the seals. Already did, but we're gonna inspect them again. Want to make sure there's no debris or nothing affecting that seal. I want that seal to be clean and clear. I don't feel anything in here. All right, let's lower this jack all in one motion. Let's take the safety off. Let's hold that up, and we should be able to come down. Nothing holding us. We can get those cooling lines on too when we lower. Ease off the jack. Just easing down. We're supported by both mounts and the engine. All right, just easing on down. We lost a lot of cooling, although I got those clips in place. We lost some cooling, so we got to replace some cooling in here too. Let's put these cooling lines on and get them out of our way right now. Let's get this cooling line pushed up on here. Sick of Buddy leaking. And remember, we got our bolt here for the bracket. We can actually remove this so we can get the brace on. All right, we'll torque those down. They bottom out on their own, so you got to try to figure out how far they go down. That's it. Let me get these clamps pulled down. I'll be right back. All right. Cooler lines are attached. So you can tighten up this bracket. I'll show you guys the torque specs. I'm just gonna tighten them down. No flex head, ratchet wrench, 13 millimeter. That's good, just a brace. We got that tied up. Both clamps are in place on the hoses for the cooler. There's fluid running through it. We got no leaks. Let's inspect the seal. I already did that. It's fine. Since we're right here, the seal is perfect. Just inspect the seal. Make sure there's no debris or it's not pinched or got a slice in or anything. Remember, we didn't tighten the shield up. I'm gonna show you guys the torque specs for these, but I'm just gonna tighten them down since we're just under here freestyling. It's just for the shield. The only purpose for this is just to tighten up the shield. That's it. Alright, that's all you need. A couple things we got now. Phase sensor right here. We're gonna plug this up. I'll show you guys exactly where this goes. There's the primary speed sensor right here. We can just hit this right now. Plug it up right now. Where's our? We gotta get our harness on. Okay, here's the harness. Let's get our connectors in place. I should have checked the transmission for broken retainers, so I can't do those. And that one, there's something inside. There's an old broken retainer and it's kind of tough to get out. I'll eventually pick them out with a pick tool, but everything else is pretty much done up here. Do this bracket, the gear selector, and fuel. We can actually take care of that right now. At the end of the video, I'll show you guys how to align this range switch perfectly. I already got it aligned here. I'm just not going to integrate it here. I was going to integrate that clip here, but I'll wait till the end of the video and show you guys how to align it. Alright, let's connect the plug. We can remove this. There's how you line it up there to install it and remove it. We'll go over that. Those markings are on the front of that bare nut connector, so they're a little difficult to see, but I'm going to show you guys how to install it from the side view. Really easy right now. There's a notch right there. Couple things you want to check for. They're going to notch right there. That notch. That notch goes in that notch. Let me make sure it's on there. That notch. There's actually a spot for it there, so you can't mess it up. Also, you want to inspect inside to make sure no debris is inside that plug. Make sure it's clear. After pouring the cord in, I want to inspect for leaks before I install the axle. So that's all I'm doing here. Just inspecting for leaks to make sure I have no leaks in the casing or the pan or anywhere around the vicinity of the CVT. So now let's install the axles. All right, let's get the axles in, clean them up. Look at that. Initially, I wasn't going to show me installing these axles because this video is pretty long and I'm trying to condense 13 hours of footage in this video as best as possible. And I was going to try to not show these axles, but something happened. And let me show you guys what happened right now. Something very important happened, and I'm going to show me installing the axles just for this reason. And this may happen to you as well, but this is a very critical component that just happened. So let me show you guys what I found on the ground. I was pushing in that side axle. This spring, it goes around the lip of that seal. So I gotta take some more space off my phone, and I gotta remove this axle. It was on this side, on the ground. So I gotta take this out. I just started already, so I gotta pull this out and see how can I get that spring back in that seal. This is why it's very important to inspect the little things. I removed this passenger side axle thinking that the spring came from the net seal, but it didn't. It came actually from the driver's side seal. And I'm looking at it with a small mirror just to see, but we're going to go into detail with this. Let me show you guys what I did. So here's the old trans. I just put my hand in there and moved it around, and I see it right there. I was trying to see if I can get it back underneath this lip. So I'm practicing on the old transmission seal. I removed that spring purposely to see how can I get it back in there. And mind you, I have to get inside the wheel well area and get the seal back on the driver's side. So this is my practice. You know, without that spring, that seal is going to leak. I did install some CVT fluid, the transmission fluid, leaking from here. And that's why it's important. Do not put grease or any kind of axle grease or any kind of grease on this end of that axle, because you'll contaminate the CVT fluid. The CVT fluid lubes that up. That's what you see leaking out here. And I don't have much in here. It's leaking out. So I want to note that. But I'm going to kind of look in here. Oh, this may be too big. I get my smaller mirror. And now I'm going to show you guys something. If I was a betting man and I don't gamble, the spring was laying over here. You would think it's from here, but of course it has a circular diameter. It's gonna roll when it drops, not over this side. And this spring is inside of here. We'll try to get this. Got my little small Workos light. Try to do this with one hand, guys. You're gonna see the spring. Let me zoom in too. You'll see the spring in place. Look at it. Guys got a glimpse of it. I want it to pop out. There go the spring. You can see the clarity spring on here. Come on this side. And what I thought it was, I could have sworn it was on the other side. Forgive me, I'm trying to one hand this. There's nothing. No spring on that lip. So I would have put it on the wrong side and it wouldn't have went up there. Now I got CVT fluid all over me because I pulled it out and it's leaking. So please do not add any kind of axle grease on the tip of that channel. Otherwise, you're going to contaminate that CVT fluid. All right, let me show you all old trans. We don't need no light, so you can just see this from the natural light that's out here. Pull this lip back some. Actually see the spring there. I got it up. It took a few minutes. A couple things I brought out to help me out was just a longer skinny pick, even though I got the ones, just an angle pick. I got the ones with the handle on like screwdrivers. I got many different sizes of those, but it's just kind of bulky. You need something thin, but what worked was, it worked perfectly, was this small one. So what I did was push it inside the lip with my hand. I couldn't film, I couldn't get my camera in here. Pushed it inside the lip with my hand, hold it right there. Took my other hand, grabbed this, kept it wedged in there, moved my other hand to this side, and just rotated this all the way around while I held it in place over here with my other hand. And so when I got here by my other hand, I moved my other hand out the way and just finished off that rotation. And now it's installed. I'll show you guys. It took a couple minutes, if that. Just have to find the right thing, but this is all you need. Guys, this spring wants to seat back there. It's designed to seat there, so once you get it going, it's gonna roll right in place. Now I'm just leaking like crazy over here. And I had this axle perfectly in. So let me get this going right now. Let me show you guys a tip too when installing these axles. I have these axles laying on this jack as so for a reason. I'll show you why. So when you install these axles, what stops them from seating all the way out is you're fighting against this snap ring or lock ring or retainer. If you look at it right now, I have the opening facing up for that reason, both sides. Show you guys why. When you install it this way, look at the material from that you're trying to force inside of that. Because I got quite a few axle removers on my channel and installations, but look what you're fighting against. I'll talk about this pretty much on all of them. Now, I'll show you guys if we rotate it. This is the way we want to install this thing. Straightforward. We want to let gravity help us with this installation. Well, most of the material here, there's an opening there. So that opening allows us to slide in without that much effort and gives us play. That opening gives us play. So we want to rotate this around, make sure the opening is at the bottom and on both sides. So here's the method I want to show you guys that I was talking about earlier when I was going to install the axles. This is the method I believe is the best method when doing this job, removing the CVT. I should have showed it earlier, but I'm going to explain why this is the best method right now. It's kind of simple mathematics. It's removing one piece to give you access to do the same job opposed to moving two bolts. If you remove these, you're allowed to pivot this on this ball joint opposed to allowing to move it in every direction pretty much. You're working off the strut here. This is what you're working off of. You can kind of rotate it or pull it back way out your way. Look at this. You're not damaging anything. There's a bushing there. So to me, this is the best method for this. I got a straight shot to the axle. I'm gonna ratchet it back even a little farther for video purposes. Let's go. We got it here, so don't worry about it. There's really no tension there. Put it way back out of our way. I think that's good enough. We're just a straight path. You're not damaging anything. Ample enough room for the speed sensor wire. Brake line is perfectly fine. Strut bushing is going to be perfect. A strut mount going to be fine. Like I say, super easy to remove these rusted bolts. But just pop out that one bolt, joint for it, pickle for it, pop this ball joint out of place. All right, now we got a straight shot, straight direct shot, and I can get some good filming. So yeah, even the link, this is the link. You don't have to remove the link on either side, so the links are fine. This is also a great method when removing the CVT. I should have did it earlier. It just gives you ample enough space to get it out your way or to pull it down. I also want to note it's much more difficult to replace an axle when there's no axles in the transmission or the CVT. I'm going to show you guys in detail how to get this in when you're just replacing both axles or when both axles are removed or installing the transmission. If you have one axle on the other side, it's much easier than replacing both at the same time. Here I'm going to show you guys what makes it a little difficult when installing an axle when there's neither axle inside the CVT or transmission. As you can see, there's two gears here, one on this side. This is the passenger view, and they rotate in opposite directions. So imagine when trying to install the driver's side axle, it's spinning, it's rotating freely because there's no restriction on the passenger side. Now, if the passenger side axle in, that gear has restriction on it. It probably won't even move. It's locked up, so which allows you to lock those splines in place and then pop that axle in. Here I'm going to show you guys a method to wedge something on the passenger side and pop the driver's side in. I just got a flat blade screwdriver or flathead screwdriver in there wedged up against that in the channel of that gear. It keeps it locked up. It won't allow it to move. And you can feel the splines on the axle go in place, and then you can pop it in. This is the view from the passenger side. This is how the axle should look once it's seated. You should see it almost pushed up to that centered shaft right there, that smooth centered shaft that divides both axles. You should see it, or divides both gears. You can see the axle back there, or the face of that front of that axle. Once it's seated correctly, you can see it's locked in those splines as well. Here I'm just showing I have the axle locked in place. Now I can take the hard mallet and knock it in the rest of the way. So here we're going to do a couple things, more preventative maintenance. Since we removed that intake from the cylinder head, we're going to replace that lower intake gasket. Although that one looked good, I just don't want to take any chances. It's off. They're inexpensive. Might as well replace it. And we're also going to clean that throttle body out. It's kind of dirty from carbon buildup over the years, so we're going to clean that out as well. Also, once I start cleaning the throttle body out, I'm going to manually open and close it. What this does most of the time is throw the calibration off, so it will require a throttle body relearn. And if you don't want to go through that, you don't have to do it, but I'll show you guys how to do that as well. But you see me guys open it manually here to clean it. It's going to throw the calibration off 9 times out of 10, and you're going to have either high idle or it's going to keep starting and stopping. Once you start it, it'll shut off. So we're going to fix that. So I'll do a throttle body relearn on this as well. So just some more preventive maintenance, just something I recommend doing, especially placing that lower intake gasket since we removed it from the cylinder head. And that gasket is old, in this case 13 years old. I do want to note, cleaning this throttle body out, you will see an increase in gas mileage and an improvement in throttle response. So here's a high quality, inexpensive gasket set you can order. The information is right there as well. Comes with the throttle body gasket. We didn't remove the throttle body, so we're not going to replace that, but definitely going to replace that lower intake gasket. Here I'm just showing the gasket or the intake is fully seated to the cylinder head before I torque it down. Just want you guys to see that. You can see the tab sticking out from the gasket and how flush we are to the cylinder head. You don't want to have nothing wedged between there, no wire harness, anything caught between there, because if it does, it's going to have a vacuum leak. You're going to have issues. inspect that O-ring. Somebody altered this so it can just come up. Here's the 8mm bolt. Oh, that's good. O-ring is good. This just comes off now. Install it. Since we're waiting for coolant, 14mm oil wrench. You already got the stick out, removed. Yeah, I can loosen this up. Since I keep track on all the information on all the vehicles I've worked on, especially fluid changes, here's a great time to mark the data or record the data for the oil change and the CVT fluid replacement at the same time. Although the oil requires more frequent oil changes compared to CVT fluid, it's still a great time here to mark both down as being replaced at the same time. So just want to note that. Alright, this is all we're going with. We can install the filter, drain plug. Alright, peel this paper off. Put a little oil in the seal, which will allow us to get maximum tighten. Despite me knowing the oil drain plug is secure and everything is fine, the oil filter, I always only pour a quart in and inspect for leaks and then pour the remainder. It's just a habit I've picked up over the years. I want to note, this 1.8 liter engine takes a tad bit under 4.5 quarts when replacing the oil filter. This battery sits on a bridge or a riser. You can see it there. It locks on here. As you can snap off. Make sure it's locked on. It gives it the correct height.
I'm gonna take the boys fishing.
That tab that locks that duct in place is broken off. It was like that when we got the car, so I gotta snap it in. I'll figure something out to get it to keep it locked in place. So here's my final inspection, looking over everything before I go to the next step, and then we're gonna start it. But just inspecting everything, make sure everything's in place or intact, no leaks, and yeah, we're fine. And then we'll go to the next step. Let me update this. I knew I was going to do this, and I'll be back. The program of these Sentras inverters doesn't require much. It doesn't have a QR code to scan. All you're doing is clearing the old data out the TCM, and I'll show you guys that right now, what the consult software entails, and we're going to do the exact same thing with this launch. So here's the instructions when only replacing the TCM. We're going to scroll down because we replaced the transaction or the CVT and see what to do or what it requires to replace the CVT. Not much. Like I said, all you're doing is clearing the old data out the TCM for the old transmission. That's it. And we're going to do that really quickly with the launch. I'll turn the video back on when the health report is done. Takes quite a while. Alright, you guys can see I'm trying to get the sun glare out of here. Doing the best that I can, guys. We still got those 2 codes from earlier. What I meant by earlier is when I showed the codes from the previous CVT. Those are still the same codes. I never erased them, so we're going to take care of all that now. Enter the control module. We're not going to clear the fault code yet. Let's go to special functions. So here, what we want to do is erase the calibration data, erase the learning values, and where it says conform CVT F deterioration, we're going to erase that or clear that as well. What I didn't show after the fact was the calibration data. I hate I didn't show that. It should read the the values on the chart I just showed. Erase calibration data. Tells us what to do. Engine stop selected to level R. And R. Accelerator pedal depressed. Forgive me, guys. I'm trying my best to get the sun out of here. Alright. Okay. Start. Alright. Go back. Erase learning values. Okay. We're in R. Accelerator depressed. Okay. We're in R. Start. Completed. Go back. Fill up the gas. Now we can conform to deterioration. This is the they put a deterioration date there. We're going to just press clear here. That's it. All right, and we should be all good now. All good. Now we can erase these codes. And now we can go back to park. 4 or 5 seconds, it should pop up. If the P or park symbol does not pop back up within 5-6 seconds, just turn the ignition off, turn it back on, do not start the vehicle, and it should show right on the dash. Alright, should be all good now. Let's go to brake. Check each gear. Reverse, neutral, drive, L. Guys, there's much less inexpensive scanners that I believe can complete this task. I got quite a few of them, and I'm gonna see and post it in the review that I'm doing on this scanner. Lon sent me this scanner back in March, and I'm currently still doing the review on it. I wanted to make sure I have an honest take on the product, not just throwing something out there. So I've been using it for a few months. It's becoming one of my favorites now, and the unboxing and review will be on the channel soon. Just working on it or finishing it up right now. All right, now we're gonna start the vehicle. Let's turn it off real quick. We're gonna start the vehicle, guys. Inspect for leaks. Before we put everything back together, I can put this wheel well cover on or fender guard. Just want to inspect for leaks right now, and then I'll pop the wheels on, then go for a test drive. But let's start this thing off for the very first time. Also, we can check the oil. We know we just replaced it. No leaks under there, but you just never know. Can't be safe enough. We're filled up. So we don't have coolant. We'll do that last. We're gonna do the coolant last before we close this out. We're gonna vacuum fill this system. So we know we lower coolant, but we just want to start it initially and inspect for leaks and stuff. So let's do that right now. Just as I suspected, I knew I was going to have to do a throttle body relearn after I cleaned that throttle body and kept opening it manually. My initial thought was to check for vacuum leaks because we would get that same symptom if a vacuum was leaking and all the hoses were fine. So let's add some coolant to this thing so we can allow it to run and get up the temperature so we can perform the throttle body relearn. But yeah, I knew I was going to have to do it just as I told you guys for the initial start. This thing's lighting way too high. As you guys can see, it's also surging between 2,500 to 3,000 RPMs, way too high. The surge also is an indicator for that throttle body is out of calibration. So here I'm mixing some coolant. This takes the blue coolant. I bought some concentrate and some distilled water. Never using concentrated coolant or antifreeze. You want to use some distilled water with it. And I got the other container with the funnel on it for my mixture, to make it a 50-50 mixture. I think I lost about a gallon in the vehicle, so that's how much I'm going to mix up, and I'll add accordingly to how much the vehicle takes once we vacuum fill the coolant system. So let's take care of that right now. Show you guys how we're going to vacuum seal it. Show you guys what the software shows, and we'll get started. Pretty much equalized there. Hoses are back inflated or back to their normal shape. Top it off now. So after I filled the car with coolant, I had to make a quick run. I didn't get back to this evening. I came out because I wanted to take this thing out for a spin because I was completely done with everything, and I'm going to show you guys exactly what I did right now. So I had to bring the car up to temperature to do a throttle body relearn. As you can see, the throttle is around, well, close to 1500. However, it was idling at 2000, 2500. To bring it down, the trick is to put it in gear. As you can see, it's in reverse right now. That allowed me to have the engine running to warm it up without it revving so high. I didn't want them high RPMs revving just to wait till it warm up. So put it in gear so you can start the throttle learn procedure, and that's what we're going to do here. But I just want to show you guys, it still was idling high. Once you put it in gear, it dropped those RPMs way down here at about 1400 here, which was perfect. So other than that, in park, it would have been idling way high in surging, 2500, close to 2500, 3000 RPMs. In this case, you want to focus on the idle air quality learning, not the throttle plate position or the throttle position. Here, just want to focus on idle. We know we have those high RPMs, and once you get or start executing procedures, it's probably going to take about 5 or 6 minutes, but you're going to watch that throttle bounce up and down until it adjusts correctly. Let me get the cover real quick. Zero leaks from the seals on the inside. This is the very next day. Not a speck of nothing. We're gonna remove that fuel plug, and then remove this once we warm the vehicle up. Let's start the vehicle right now, let it warm up, so we can remove this drain plug after we shift through all the gears. All right, placing the shield now. Already seen when I removed it. Broken bolt here, there. That one's fine. And here. I'm going to replace all these with some plastic retainers. As I was putting this shield up, I realized that we got to do the transmission fluid. So I'm going to reach my hand up in here. Take that dipstick out. All right, we got that there. So before we warm it up, we're going to add quart. All right, let's pour a little bit of fluid in here. All right, it says it takes 7 1/4 bone dry. There was a little something in here when I got the transmission. These are all the quarts used. Most of that one and about 1/4 of that one, but I'll tell you what I did. I wasted about 1/4 of one of these quarts. So put this here. So we basically have about 4 1/2 quarts in here. After I've weighed 4 1/2, so let's pour the remainder of this one inside before we start it. And then we're gonna warm this thing up and see what happens. And we're gonna start it. Put this back on this side now. Wipe our hands off. And we're gonna start it. Cold start, baby. That's how it should be. Should have put the shield up, but it's okay. Let the thing run up. All right, you're gonna bring it up to temperature. And we'll be back. All right, first thing we're gonna do, we get to some temperature now. Gonna press the brake. We're gonna shift through all the gears, 5 seconds per gear. And go to neutral, you can go to reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back to park. Now we can check the fluid, see what comes out while the vehicle is running. I'm going to use this clear container. try to catch most of that fluid because it's expensive. 19 millimeter. So as you've seen, pretty much did nothing come out. So we know we need to add some more. I'm going to show you guys how to perfectly fill this transmission without wasting any CVT fluid. That stuff is expensive. Whether it's you doing just a regular maintenance or completely from scratch like I'm doing here with nothing in there when we bought a new transmission or CVT. What you want to do now is hand tighten the drain plug so you can remove it by hand, because you don't have to do this multiple times to fill this to perfection. They recommend you add a half a quart per shifting through the gears like we just did. So I'm going to fast forward, speed through this, and then show you because the clip is already super long. So I'll put it fast forward so you guys see me do this process over and over again until I see a trickle coming out. So half quart increments, that's it. Half a quart at a time. It's going to be a long drawn out process, but to fill it precisely, that's what you want to do. Let's go. Two, three, four, five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bingo, there we go. We finally got it to trickle out. Just let it run out just a little bit till you get a small trickle and you can install the drain plug and you know you'll have it precisely filled. So I'm going to start now because it starts to slow down. And yeah, that's it. We got it. Alright, completely filled. Now we can install that fuel plug. And then install the coolant reservoir, top that off, and we go for a test drive. It's been running for a minute, a little long procedure, but not overheating or anything. Zero lights, the ABS on because the voice went out there for some reason. But yeah, this car needs TPMS sensors. Of course, the battery's dead in them. That's why the ABS light is on. I'll eventually change them out, but yeah, we're all good. Let's put that reservoir on and take this thing for a spin. All right, so we use 7 quarts. Remember, we put some in the torque converter already. Got an 1/8 quart left. It was a little bit in the transmission already, so this is what we waste. Pretty much next to nothing. So we'll pour that back in one of these containers. We're not trying to waste anything. This stuff is expensive, so. All right, final thing to install, coolant reservoir. We're gonna put it here max, kind of get a gauge on it. Top it off there. You see this tab here? This tab goes right down there. All right, let me install this, and here's our bolt. We can actually pull this off. We'll be fine. We're gonna fill it to that max level. Here's our 50-50 from yesterday. This is already mixed, pre-mixed. Coolant level is at max. Besides having to knock the rust off the rotors when I brake a few times, this thing drives like we just bought, like a brand new car. It drives amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. No codes, no lights, just a flawless job. Another flawless job for the channel, guys. All right, back. Just want to inspect for leaks. Rides like a brand new car. Rides and drives like a brand new car. All right, let's inspect for leaks, and then I think one of these tires are low too. I'll put some air in it, and we're all good. All right, guys. I hope you found the video helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Terrence, I'm out. No coolant, no nothing. Let's go. Yep. Which way you going out? That way or this way? All right, come on. The first thing you want to do is make sure you're in park. Secure the vehicle with a chock or a block behind the wheel, and then apply the emergency brakes. Due to the length of this video, I've already removed the battery and all the other components so we can have a clear view of the rain switch or the neutral safety switch. I've already showed in great detail how to remove these components and reinstall them. So let me just show you guys how to align this thing perfectly without the special tool, and I'll also show you the special tool. And if you want to purchase it, you can, but I'm going to show you guys a shortcut on how to align it. 14, already loosened up. It's a 14 millimeter nut there, 14 millimeter on the lever as well. But look at this, I got a straight shot. If we come here, go over right here, another direct shot for the lever. 14 millimeter magnetic bit, just gonna come right up. You gotta worry about it dropping down there anywhere. We don't need to remove the lever because we don't have the special tool. All we need to remove is the shifter cable, and I'll show you guys that. If you have the special tool, and I'll integrate that in here now, you would need to remove the lever to install the special tool to align the switch up perfectly. But we don't have it, and it's kind of expensive too. So let's get started. You see that hole there? That's the key to aligning this switch up perfectly. That shaft on the special tool seats inside that hole, and we don't have that tool, so I'm going to show you guys a trick or a method to align it with the shaft on the transmission so you can have the correct position for that rain switch. Once you remove the shifter cable, slightly loosen the two bolts up that hold the rain switch to the CVT. Just loosen them up a little bit to allow the rain switch to move or swing in either direction with some restriction. And in my case, I don't have to loosen them because my rain switch is already in perfect alignment. Next, manually move the lever in the neutral position. Remember, it's in park already, so drop down once, reverse, the next is neutral. Now, if you look at the top of that shaft, since we're in neutral, I'm going to zoom in. I marked it with a marker there at the very corner of the top of that rectangle. On that specific side, on the corner, you want that facing directly to the center of that hole. That's how you align it. So I used a marker and just some kind of straight edge. You can use a piece of paper or an envelope, something with a straight edge, which will align that corner of that shaft to the center of that hole, that pilot hole there. That's where you want to be at. If you can see how I got it marked off, it's a straight edge there. I used a piece of cardboard, and I'll show you guys right here what I used. Once you align the corner of that shaft where I got that mark at to the center of that hole, it has to be straight directly to the center of that hole. You're pretty much dialed in. As you can see, this rain switch was already dialed in. That's why I didn't loosen those two bolts up that hold the switch to the transmission. So if your rain switch wasn't aligned correctly, that's why loosening those two bolts is important, because it allows you to swing that rain switch to align the corner of that shaft to the center of that hole. And that's what the tool does. It aligns both that shaft in an angle towards that hole for it to be center of that hole, and perfectly align it with the gear selector. Once you have it perfectly aligned, tighten both bolts back down, shift the linkage back in park, attach the shifter cable, and you're done.